Hi, I am Angel Ribo with Mindalia TV from the Conscious Life Expo. And we are so blessed tonight to have with us Xiuhtezcatl. Welcome, thank you very much for being here with us.
Yeah, of course, it's a pleasure.
Awesome. So I would like to start the conversation asking you, what is that particular thing that you're most passionate about?
I think from a very young age, my father is from Mexico. I grew up in a lot of the Mexica traditions, the traditions of my ancestors, and learning about our connection to one another, our connection and our responsibility to protect our land, our water, our earth. I became very passionate about standing up to use my voice to defend the earth and to fight for the rights of Mother Nature. And since then, really finding music and art as a passion and a way to engage people in creating change.
Excellent. How have you been doing, since you were a kid, you said you started very early, in a very early age, how have you been able to impact and influence the others into your belief system?
Well, it really began just myself using my voice within my community, speaking about local issues and small things like chemicals being sprayed in our parks and fossil fuel extraction in our backyards, and all of a sudden a lot of people began to listen worldwide to the message that I had to say, because it wasn't just stopping an environmental issue, but it was about really uplifting and empowering a generation of youth and giving them the voice to fight for the things that they believe in. And lots of young people want that and needed that. So all over the place, youth started getting involved with our organization, Earth Guardians, and it really caught fire worldwide. And now we have over 300 Earth Guardian crews, each of which doing individual work within the communities to help protect and fight for the rights of nature, helping protect the earth and uplift their voices. So for me personally, my voice grew just from a local community activist to speaking at the United Nations and really representing my people, La Gente Mexica, and representing the younger generation at a really large scale.
What would you say has been the #1 secret for you to be able to come up and to form this group of 300 communities worldwide?
#1 secret? Listen. You really have to listen to the young people, listen to what they want. It's not really about pushing our agenda onto other youth. It's really about offering a platform and tools and connections and resources for young people to engage and create change, and then they will follow, and they will teach you what it is that they want to create. We have everything from young people planting trees to we're starting a hip-hop record label for young artists to getting young people involved in theater in teaching environmental studies through theater in the streets in India. So it's really diverse in that way, and really just empowering positivity and solutions. Solutions are really, really much an underscored topic of everything that we talk about at Earth Guardians.
Do they have some age group in common, all those 300 communities?
So there are tens of thousands of people involved worldwide. Individually, some of the groups are really small, some of the groups are 3,000 strong, So it's really diverse, and the age group is anywhere from like 7 years old to like 27. And so it's very broad. Anyone can be involved, but we always like to keep it youth at the front, youth leading the way.
Right. Would you say that regardless of where the community is, the need is still there?
The need is definitely still there. I've been everywhere from really conservative Republican communities in the Midwest in the United States to places across the world, from Australia to Europe, and what I've seen is that young people are hungry for their voice to be heard. Young people are hungry to be a part of something positive. And so once you offer that platform, the need is always like ever present, And it's really exciting because once you give these tools put these tools in the hands of the young people, they fly with it and they create their own change, they create their own programs, their own ideas, their own projects. And from there, that's where diversity grows and thrives within the movement, giving the tools of leadership to the hands of the young people.
How do you have some way to actually try to attract people in those communities, so it's not like an isolated group of people, but how do they integrate with the rest of their reality?
It starts just small, like one person reaching out to their friends and family, and then throwing community events. I think a lot of what Earth Guardians helps facilitate too is just like connection within the community too. So whether that's like a sports event, just like a local sports event or a local concert or a dance party. Like we've had block parties, film screenings, just different ways to get people involved, like ceremonies, different ways to bring people out and really reach out to the community. Really like to go into the schools as well, because that's where young people show up every single day, and growing kind of through the networks of different like-minded people that are necessarily kind of working on different things, but like with the same avenue. So Earth Guardians are focusing on environmental justice, linking up with different local businesses that also have that same kind of lens, and partnering with them to then get Earth Guardian posters and flyers in some of their restaurants across town. So it really just depends community to community, but we love to integrate community projects and in inviting everybody out to have a say, regardless of who they are.
How many communities do you think, or groups do you think you should create on Earth so Earth doesn't have to be guarded anymore?
Yeah, I think having it so that these platforms are strong enough and have enough of a support system to really ground a place where anywhere in the community can start it up like that and have access and the tools to creating change. So, I mean, as far as a number, I don't know. I think it's going to take community leadership from almost every community in the world in order for things to change. I think we've seen too that change doesn't just come from elected officials at the top. You know, people can override that change. The people power can be stronger than the power that our politicians have. So, organizing and mobilizing from the grassroots, from the bottom up, is absolutely critical.
Those groups, do they have like a leader, a visible leader, someone that leads that team or that group?
Yeah, so every group has a youth director that leads that crew, and then we have regional directors that lead the region. So like a friend of ours named Xiuhtezcatl, he leads Eastern Africa. He's in charge of 7 countries and about 15 to 20 different groups. Our friend Jaya Surf from Australia, who kind of takes care of and helps manage a lot of the stuff. So it's very connected, and everybody, the leadership is very distributed throughout the community, so everybody has an opportunity to use their voice and to step into power.
As individuals, what would you say are the traits that those leaders have?
I think personally, as a leader, one thing that I've learned the most is being a really good leader. One of the most important things to carry, being a good leader, is to be able to step back from a leadership position so others can find their way to leadership. So really being able to step back and listen and recognize when the time is for you to kind of hold off on having kind of your hand on the control. I think that's really important. But also kind of selflessness, really recognizing the purpose. What are you fighting for? Why are you involved in this? And what is the bigger vision? What are we trying to create together? So create a vision, selflessness, and like humility too. And respect. You really got to respect one another. If you're working within a community, if you're working with a group or a team of people, you have to respect one another.
What do you think nature is telling us today?
If you look at 2017, it was the most hectic year, the worst rainstorms in U.S. history in Texas, and the worst wildfires across California, and the longest power outage in Puerto Rico. And it symbolizes that the Earth is demonstrating a really powerful wake-up call. That this is not just about climate change, this is not just about carbon dioxide and fossil fuels and politics, this is really about human lives. And things are going to continue to go in this downhill trajectory of melting ice caps, of rising sea levels, of displaced communities and disproportionately affected minority communities and indigenous people, unless action is taken immediately, both from a governmental standpoint and from an individual standpoint. It's telling us that we have to wake up, we have to unite, we have to drop these walls of separation and recognize that these issues are bigger than any one of us. Climate change is not a bipartisan issue. We have to come together around this because it's about the survival of humanity, future generations, our children, the air we breathe, the water we drink. Those are like the very basis. Before we can evolve human consciousness and work on the collective consciousness of humanity, part of that process is through healing the world. And I think each and every one of us carries a piece of that responsibility.
Personally, from an emotional perspective, how do you relate to nature?
I didn't go to school until I was like maybe 11, and up until then I spent all my time either in ceremony and learning my traditions or in nature. I think we within our movements look to nature to mimic it. In building strengths within our movements, we must build diversity and make sure all voices are represented and all strengths are represented within our movement, in the same way that a healthy ecosystem demonstrates diversity, and the diverse ecosystems are the ones that thrive. The diverse movements are the ones that thrive. For myself personally, just integrating and listening to nature, because that's where I get like a lot of my guidance from, and a lot of my connections to, a higher energy, and just recognizing that we are doing this for kind of in honor of this sacred land that we walk upon, that has been here long before us and will be here long after us. It's not about saving the world, it's about waking up humanity to come together and recognize this collective respect that we must have for all living things.
Would you say that you attract a specific age group that are more like relate more self to your beliefs and to guarding the earth?
Yeah, it depends. Like the organization, I mean, a lot of young people are really excited to get plugged in and involved in the organization. Along with being, a spokesperson and a climate activist, I'm also a hip hop artist. And the music that I make is very, connected and symbolic and parallel to the work that I do. And that definitely targets and involves and engages and captures a younger audience. A lot of the speeches that I do and speaking at the United Nations and TED Talks, that's a lot of older people, and I think it's really powerful because I've had the blessing of having a strong voice that can really communicate to many different audiences. But the goal is to empower young people to lead and empower adults to follow, you know.
If you were to recommend the kids, we have millions of viewers all over the world, and how would you say that, how would you ask the kids, or how would you ask the young men out there like to reconnect, to identify what the earth needs around them?
Yeah, for the youth out there, creating change isn't about being an activist. Creating change is about finding the things that you love about this life and about this world and recognizing that that's worth standing for and protecting. You don't have to go out and change the world. You don't have to go out and change your whole life. You just got to recognize that your actions and your words and your voice has power. Everything that you do, from the food that you eat to the clothing that you support to the way you treat people, that has power. And once you recognize that power, you realize that no matter what age we are, we carry a lot of power with us every single day. Implementing that power in a positive way is up to you. So recognizing that you can make a positive shift within first your own life, and then your community, and then everything around you. Start with what you're passionate about. If you're a hip-hop artist, or you're a poet, or you're a dancer, or you love science, whatever it is that you're passionate about, use those tools to get engaged. And make this movement not about resistance and activism, but about celebration, progress, technology, innovation, creativity, power. Like, that's what this movement has to be about. Specifically for young people, I recognize that we need a different kind of wake-up call to get us involved than the adults do. Because for us, this is something that is really heavy because it's our future that is being played with. So, at that point, it has to be about celebration and love and building a really creative, healthy, just world. We all have a part to play, even if it's small.
What keeps you up at night?
Honestly, what keeps me up at night more than like dreading issues and dreading crisis and dreading the state of the planet, you know, what I stay up late like thinking about and keeps me from falling asleep is like inspiration, is hope, for real. And I've never really heard this kind of answer to that question, but truly, like, what keeps me up at night is this like burning sensation I feel within my heart, within my entity, my soul, that things are at a point where the critical shift that we can hit right now within our generation can massively influence the future of every generation that will inherit this world. That's absolutely exciting. I stay up late writing lyrics, writing game plans for how we're gonna create things, you know, proposals for new projects. Like, that's what I try not to fall into, the hopelessness and the disparity. And it's hard, but for the most part, what I stay up thinking about is the hope.
Hope. What's next? What's like in your wish list? What would you say is the top on the list right now that you would like to accomplish?
I'm working on a record. I'm working on an album right now that I'm getting ready to put out to the world in probably like in May. And it's an album. It's a collection. It's a collection of stories and thoughts and like a memoir of this life that I've lived as an activist and a leader and the difficulty of that life. And for me, breaking free, as the title of the album is Break Free. And in order for the world to break free, I think we have to do that as an individual first. And this album is really putting out my story in a way the world hasn't heard it yet. And that's my form of breaking free, to then go forth and continue my work to help the world break free. And that's my most exciting project at the moment, and really hope to engage, empower, and unite a lot of other young people around this art.
Wow, excellent, so inspirational.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. It's been really a great pleasure to have you here. Again, this is Angel Ribo with Mindalia TV from the Conscious Life Expo. Thank you very much for being with us today.